Some houses are abandoned, some houses are forgotten, and some houses remember. In 1998, the quiet town of Briar Hollow was the kind of place where people didn't lock their doors. Children rode their bikes until the streetlights came on. Neighbors knew each other's routines. Nothing truly bad ever happened there until the disappearances began. The first was Lena Carlisle, a 17-year-old honor student who babysat for families on weekends. She left a friend's house just before 9 p.m. and started the short walk home. She never arrived. There were no signs of a struggle, no witnesses, no clues. At first, police assumed she had run away. She hadn't. 3 months later, a traveling salesman vanished during an overnight stay at a local motel. Then, a retired school teacher disappeared from her home without explanation. 3 people, different ages, different backgrounds, no visible connection, except one detail investigators would later notice. Each of them had last been seen near Orchid Street. At the very end of Orchid Street stood a 2-story Victorian house. The paint peeled in long strips. The windows were dark and permanently closed. The yard had grown wild, swallowing the narrow walkway that led to the porch. The house belonged to Elias Varnum. He was 52 years old and had once worked as a hospital orderly. He lived alone. Neighbors described him as quiet, polite, forgettable. He kept to himself. But more than one neighbor admitted, later, that they often felt watched when walking past his property. Elias Varnum was not insane. That distinction would matter during the investigation. He understood right from wrong. He understood consequences. What he lacked was something else entirely: empathy. Psychologists later described him as a textbook psychopath. He was charming when necessary, emotionally vacant, and deeply obsessed with control. He did not act out of rage. He did not lose control. He planned. He studied people the way others studied books. He paid attention to their routines, their habits, the moments they were alone. He selected victims carefully, observing them from a distance for weeks before making a move. To him, they were not people, they were subjects. The house was entered by police 2 years after the first disappearance. A teenage boy named Marcus Bell reported seeing a light in the upstairs window at 3:12 a.m. He was certain he saw someone standing there, staring down at the street. When officers knocked, there was no answer. After obtaining a warrant, they forced entry. Inside, the house was unnervingly clean. There was no dust, no clutter, nothing out of place. Yet something about the air felt heavy, oppressive. The living room walls were covered in photographs, hundreds of them, not framed or organized neatly, but pinned directly to the walls. They showed people walking alone, sitting at outdoor cafes, unlocking their cars. Every photo had been taken from a distance. Every face had been circled in red ink. In the basement, behind a locked door secured with 3 padlocks, investigators discovered a second room constructed within the foundation. The walls were lined with thick insulation. The space was soundproofed. At the center of the room stood a metal chair bolted to the floor. A camera was mounted in one corner. On a nearby table lay several notebooks filled with dates, times, and observations. The entries were clinical, detached. There were no emotional outbursts, no chaotic ramblings. One entry described how a subject responded to isolation and how fear increased compliance. Another reflected on the exact moment a person realized that no one was coming to help them, calling it the purest form of truth. Elias did not kill immediately. That was one of the most disturbing discoveries investigators made. He prolonged fear. He studied it. He believed that fear stripped away identity and revealed what a person truly was. He was not motivated by money, revenge, or hatred. He wanted to observe transformation. He wanted to witness the exact second hope disappeared. There was one survivor. Clara Whitmore had been missing for 6 days when police found her in the hidden room. She was weak and disoriented but alive. Later, she described the experience in careful, trembling detail. He never shouted at her. He never appeared enraged. He simply sat across from her for hours at a time, watching her reactions. He asked questions about her family, about who would search for her, about how long it would take before people assumed she was gone for good. He told her no one was coming. He spoke calmly, patiently, as though conducting an experiment. Over time, she said, she began to doubt her own sense of time and memory. The silence between his questions was worse than anything else. When police found Elias, he was seated at his dining table with his hands folded neatly in front of him. He did not resist arrest. In his bedroom closet, officers discovered personal belongings that belonged to at least 7 victims. Wallets, jewelry, watches, trophies. No bodies were ever recovered. 5 victims remain missing to this day. During the trial, psychiatrists testified that Elias showed no signs of remorse. When confronted with photographs of grieving families, he displayed only mild curiosity. He described fear as beautiful. He referred to people as predictable. He was convicted on multiple counts of kidnapping and murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Years later, a journalist was granted an interview with him. She asked why he chose Orchid Street. He explained that quiet places are rarely suspected. When asked whether he regretted his actions, he responded that his only regret was being interrupted. The house on Orchid Street was eventually demolished. The land was cleared, leaving an empty lot where the Victorian structure once stood. But even after the house was gone, residents claimed the unease remained. People walking past the lot reported a strange sensation, as though unseen eyes were fixed on them. Streetlights flickered without explanation. Dogs refused to cross that side of the road. And occasionally, security cameras facing the empty space would glitch at exactly 3:12 a.m. Some houses are abandoned. Some houses are forgotten. And some houses remember.